Because I don't really care to be any part of any heterosexual event. Because I just think that men's bodies are so ugly.
Well, I mean, that's the...
But stereotypes work. I mean, would it weren't so? I wish it weren't so. I'm doing my darndest to break moulds, but unfortunately stereotypes exist. And one stereotype is that when you're 16 or 17, your first concert wows you. It just does, mate, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And, there's no ignominy there. 140, 50, 60. I mean, it's turning into a thing of mine, but I don't intend it to be or want it to be. But I really don't think that people should bother themselves with so many of the things that people appear to bother themselves with when they come on to phone-in radio. It may be that they have better concerns, genuine concerns, things that they can attend to, right? But they don't think that it sounds important enough to bring it to a phone-in program. Well, I disagree. Those are the things that are near you, the things that are within your orbit that you can reach out and touch physically or emotionally, the people you're involved with. And the first person that you're involved with is yourself. Is yourself. And just because you've read something on the front page of a sensationalist newspaper and it's affected you, and we've all been affected by some news stories over the last 10 days, weeks, but there's not much you can do. It destabilises you. It makes you shudder. It happens in our house when there are certain things on the news. And then, not just, as it were, top of the agenda news stories, but lots of little news stories that they sprinkle through bulletins and newspapers, which are designed to make a little tiny shudder run through you. A sense of insecurity take you by the hand and lead you to the top of the stairs and give you a nudge. They're there all the time, bombarding you from a long, long way away. Such a long, long way away. There's nothing you can do about them, and yet for some reason we end up worrying about them. Or thinking that because those are the things that are reported in important places by important people, i.e. journalists and etc., then we too ought to be worried about those things, or appear to be worried about those things. I don't think so. I don't think that way lies happiness. That's all. I think it's best to get on with yourself and to get on with the people around you. I mean, when I say get on with, I mean get on with the work that you have to do to be a halfway sane individual. You've got to be really vigilant. Not about what some politician's doing, but about what you're really thinking and feeling. Not about what some bunch of mercenaries are doing somewhere else, but about what you yourself are actually doing and thinking and feeling. But above all, actually doing. Try looking at yourself as if you were a bunch of mercenaries. How would you get reported up? How would the journalists describe what you said to those people in the greengrocers when you lost your rag with them, how would that get reported up? How would it be for you if you were being reported up by a bunch of rogue journalists who just wanted to make you seem eccentric? I mean, take George Best. Here's a case in point. George Best, who's been described as bloated for about the last 5 or 6 years, is now a teetotaler. And he looks fantastic. Have you seen a picture of him lately? He's back to being the slim, hipped guy that he was. So how's he described in yesterday's papers? I was astonished that they should try it on. Frail. He goes to Spain, he reads the tabloids. He's now frail. Hey, leave him alone. There was one TV station the day before yesterday that had sent reporters out to Spain to track him down, and you knew that they were hoping against hope that they'd be able to get some shots of him with a beer glass in his hand. You knew that. I mean, he's addicted. He's addicted to being George Best. It's not a question of telling barmaids not to serve him. It's a matter of journalists not treating him like George Best any longer. But what's more important, his liver and his happiness, or a good story? 08700 40 50 60. Time to take stock, really, as the great men and women meet, the G7 nations and those representatives of the various factions in the Middle East, to discuss outstanding issues of conflict in the world's hotspots, and also to talk about the economic responsibilities and ambitions of the most powerful nations on earth. As perhaps the most remarkable sportsman of all time, certainly someone who is able to stand alongside the likes of Muhammad Ali and Jesse Owens, is now within touching distance of the first of many crowns, the youngest ever Grand Slam victory, Tiger Woods. As all these events conspire around us on a Saturday evening, I ask you this question: 08700 40 50 60. What do you make of chewing gum? It's very strange stuff, isn't it? Call. I've got to get to Gareth, apparently. He's mobile in Manchester and he's jumping up and down. Hi, Gareth.
Hi, Gareth. Is that Tommy, is it?
Yeah.
Hi. I'm always surprised at the number of times radio presenters get the names of scientific things wrong. Okay.
Why are you surprised about that?
Well, I just think that you'd probably...
Jesus, we're not scientists, you fool.
No, I'm not
radio presenters. Yes, you are.
I'm not saying...
Look,
I'm not
if
saying
I
you
told...
should be scientists, but you don't have
look,
to...
is there clouds in the sky? Does that surprise you?
Sorry?
Is there clouds in the sky? Does that surprise you? No.
What's your IQ, mate?
What's your IQ, mate?
About 155.
I bet it ain't.
I bet it is.
Well, how did you find that out?
Because I had a test of it.
Hey, you wally.
Anyway, aspartame, as it should be correctly pronounced, right, is related to a substance.
Can I just stop you from being boring?
No, just tell you something. I'll tell you one thing very, very quickly.
No, listen, pal, excuse me. You're a scientist. You've got an IQ of 155. That's why you haven't got a radio show. You're boring.
I don't want one.
Well, get off the air then. You're on mine.
I'm just telling you.
Get off my grass.
I'll tell you.
Get out of my house.
What you're doing
Don't
is...
come on the radio and tell me that you're surprised that radio presenters get scientific facts wrong. You haven't got an IQ of 155.
Can you read?
You haven't got any friends.
Can you read?
Go
because
away.
what you did was you read something off the label of a...
Colin's in Glasgow. Colin, hi. I didn't actually read out terribly well what all the technical terms were. And a guy rang and he had a pop saying that he thinks it's disgraceful when radio presenters try to read out scientific names. I mean, this is what made this man angry. I mean, is this tragic or not? I mean, can you imagine? He probably has children or pets or something. There are people in his lives, and this makes him angry? Anger's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, it made him angry. The first thing he said was that he had an IQ of 155. He volunteered this, and he knew because he'd taken a test. I mean, never go near anybody who's taken a test to find out if they can join Mensa. Ooh, no offence, Lee. But, and then he said that he was a scientist. And he asked me if I could read. And it made me very angry. And I remember, does anybody else remember a TV drama that was on a good 20 years ago? And it was about the attempt of some scientists to bring the world together in harmony by faking an attack by aliens. These scientists' thinking was that if they could get the Earth to unite against a common enemy, then the Cold War would end. However, their plan was deduced by, well, not the goodies, but by the non-scientists. And this is what was funny. Right at the end of it, and it had been a fairly plausible drama up until then. You don't get dramas like this on the telly anymore. Right at the very end, the scientists were all guillotined at Wembley Stadium. And it was fantastic. You saw these transit vans with scientists in the back. Scientists. And they're all handcuffed. And they were getting out of the transit van, and they were shot from ground level, obviously, because Wembley Stadium it wasn't. And it would have been empty if it had been. So they always shoot from the ground level if there's somewhere where they don't want you to see, you know, what the surroundings really is. They just say, oh, we'll take them to Wembley Stadium and execute them there. And then there was a shot of a guillotine, sort of, again, looking up at the sky. And then you got a cutaway to the harrowed face of a scientist who's about to be decapitated for trying to create world harmony. And it popped into my mind because I've always seen scientists as being a slightly separate species. Where he goes. I always never ceases to amaze me that well, it doesn't. No, it never ceases to amaze me. Let's get precise about this. It amuses me when people try to shock you, and they think that's fantastic. It's wonderful not to be shockable. You should try it. If you're somebody who gets shocked easily. Getting shocked easily is bad for your arteries. It's bad for your disposition. But worst of all, it leaves you vulnerable. If you're unshockable, and it takes practice, I have to say it takes practice. But if you're unshockable, you effectively disarm your enemies. You know, it's like with swearing. If we did away with making swearing something that you disapprove of, so that all that language, which gets called bad by people, is no longer bad, all right? Then all that's happened is that people who had previously been provided with a weapon by their intended victims are disarmed. And the same goes with shock. I mean, you cannot shock me. Okay, kids? You cannot shock Uncle Tom. Fantastic. They'll try, though. And we love it, don't we? Let's go to... They're going to finish fourth again. Thomas calls from Batley. Thomas, you're on Talk Radio. Welcome.
Hi, Tommy. I'd just like to know what you've got against schools and teachers made in your last comments.
Well,
and what you base your opinions on.
That's a nervous question. What do you really mean? You disagree with me?
Well, I must say that...
I base my opinions on being an educationalist.
Yeah, I must admit, I do think the school should be a compulsory venture sort of thing. I mean, if we have no schools, and you say yourself that you don't need qualifications to be happy, but what qualifications do you have, and how have they helped you in life?
Not a bit. I put them in an envelope when I was 17, and I've never seen them since.
Yeah,
nobody's asked to see them, and nobody's asked how many I've got, and I'm all right.
So how do you evaluate the unemployment rates in this country then, when people have left school?
It's not a thing I'd ever do. Can you speak English? You wouldn't say to a bloke in the pub who you knew quite well, how do you evaluate the unemployment problem? They'd walk away.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm talking to you now. I'm on the radio.
No, you're not on the radio. You're talking to me.
I could come on that one.
No, you're starting to broadcast. Look, I'm the broadcaster, and I'm not broadcasting. You're a member of the public, and you're trying to broadcast.
Look,
you're trying to come across like somebody important by using long words like, how do you evaluate the unemployment problem? Stick it where the sun doesn't shine. The whole thing. Talk normally. Talk normally. Like a human being.
All right, then.
Have a conversation.
So, what do you base your opinion? What do you base your
I don't understand that question. I didn't understand.
How do you base it?
How does anybody base any opinion on anything?
What do you base your opinion that schools should not be compulsory?
What does anybody base any opinion on? What do you think? Their experience?
Yeah.
And their intelligence?
Yeah.
So why would my answer be any different from anybody else's? God, what does a parrot base its experience on?
Okay, so I'm disagreeing with it now. So why should you be insulting me on live radio? What gives you the right?
Because you came on and you were arsey with me.
You're arsey with them that comes on your show, mate.
Only when they start it with me. I never ever start it. But as soon as people come on,
you
just said about you get a fight. You clench your fists in public, and somebody else will clench their fists.
You've just said about teachers.
I'm only being
bullying
defensive.
the people to be nice to them.
Yeah.
So in other words, I've got to be nice to you on the radio. Otherwise, you won't be nice to me.
No, that's not true. That doesn't work. That's not a fair equation. It's not a reasonable equation. It's not an intelligent equation. It's a desperate equation.
No, it's not. It's true.
It's desperate.
That's why you've lowered the tone of your voice. You're not shouting anymore at me.
That doesn't work. You're not very clever. Go away.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Slam the phone down. Nice one. Tom calls from Staffordshire. Fantastic bottoms. I like bottoms. Do you?
Yeah, lovely.
I'm a bottom man.
Bottoms and legs.
I've never understood breasts. I know that, a lot of men, great, they're very keen on breasts, but me, botties.
Exactly.
Good talking to you.
All right, thanks.
Let's try this one. Line 5, County Down. Wilfred, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Tommy.
Here we go.
I just wanted to ask you, now, I'm very pleased that you have, you're screening the callers. It's much easier to get access to you, because whenever you get all the lunatics on at once, the lines are absolutely jam-packed and you could be 3 or 4 hours, but that's a good thing. Now that you're screening. Now, I wanted to ask you why...
Everybody's a critic.
You don't discuss the issues. You see, I have issues that I want to discuss, and it seems to be trivial little things that are being talked about. Now, can I discuss? Can I just air a viewpoint?
Nope.
Well, you see, you're stifling debate, Tommy.
Absolutely.
And I call upon Archbishop of Westminster, Cormac Murphy O'Connor, to resign in the light of the disgraceful lack of he should have gone to the police whenever.
Are you? Is this anything to do with me?
This has to do with all of us.
Well, it doesn't have to do with me.
Well, it certainly has to do with me because...
No, it doesn't. You live miles away. You've never met him, and you don't know what he's like.
I certainly do know what he's like.
You've never met him? When did you meet him?
Well, I don't need to meet him.
Yes, you do.
He's a man who thinks he doesn't need to go to the police.
It's got nothing to do with you. You're a nosy busybody. What are you? Say it after me. You are a nosy busybody, and it makes the world a worse place, and we don't like busybodies. Now get a life and get interested in yourself and the people around you, and stop forming shallow, superficial, instant opinions about things about which you know nothing. If you don't know him, you're not entitled to an opinion about him.
Oh, I certainly am, and
No, you're certainly not. Not when I'm in town, and I'm in town. Call your local phone-in show, Wilfred, and they might be vaguely, that desperate for a call, they'll let you prattle on. What is it about the generation that Wilfred belongs to that makes them think that their views are so important about things they know nothing about? This man he's talking about is a human being. And can you imagine what it must be like to be a human being, whether you're in a prominent position or not? And people get to be prominent sometimes because they simply try to do their best, and then all of a sudden they're in a position of prominence. That's how teachers get to be heads. That's how coppers get to be superintendents. That's how school prefects get to be MPs. You know, they just carry on. They're not trying to be rotten or evil or influence people's lives. They just follow a career path. What else can you do? Strange word, careers. Then you end up and you're vaguely sort of important. And as soon as that happens, then somebody starts to form totally inaccurate opinions about you, like Wilf boy. Oh, Wilf baby. I bet he's got a Wilf?
Yes, am I still on?
No, I keep switching you off because you're ever so dull.
No, listen.
No, you listen. I'm asking you a question.
Wait, what?
Is there anything you haven't got an opinion on?
There are some things that aren't important, and I have no opinion on them if they're...
Like what? Like what?
Well, they're so trivial I can't think of them because they're unimportant.
Well, give me something then that you've got. What's the most ridiculous opinion that you've got about something that is so remote, it's got so little to do with you that it's almost unbelievable?
I can't think of any ridiculous...
Well, let's try something, shall we? I bet you've got some views about the Middle East peace process.
I couldn't care less about it.
Fantastic. Let's talk about that then.
Hey, no, Tommy. Now you stop that.
No, you stop it.
You're trying to get me wound up.
Mind your own business. I'm giving you advice. I'm the doctor. I'm a doctor, as you know, a philosopher. Doctor of philosophy.
I wanted you to know, Tommy.
The reason that you're a lonely old is because you have too many opinions about things that nobody's interested in.
I'm not lonely. All my friends...
Well, what do you keep phoning me for, then?
Well, you're one of my friends. You see...
I'm one of your enemies, Wilfred. If you haven't noticed that, you haven't got a clue. Your antennae are dead.
Look, I've been psychoanalyzing you, Tommy. I meant to tell you. I've been...
You haven't been doing it as long as me.
I'm doing a thesis on you. And I'm psychoanalyzing... See, all my conversations...
As my thesis on me.
Sorry?
I said, I bet it's not as good as my thesis on me.
Oh.
Have you psychoanalyzed yourself?
Oh, yes. Oh, goodness me, I've done a lot of work on myself.
Yes, it's an ongoing project, though, isn't it? 08700 40 50 60. Morning, Simon.
Tommy.
Hi.
A few minutes ago, you called that priest a human being. He is a human being, but he's a very misguided human being because he helped, maybe not intentionally, but he helped a paedophile hurt children.
What's it got to do with you?
What's it got to do with me?
Yeah. Nothing.
So... well, okay, fair enough. I mean, this is a point you've made before. Okay, it doesn't have...
it is, actually.
It doesn't have directly anything to do with me, but then by that token...
What makes you think either it's got anything to do with you or that anybody cares what you think about it is the question I really am interested in hearing answered.
Well...
Because you could have a case. maybe you're justified. Maybe it does have something to do with you, and you can make that connection. Maybe your views are worth hearing, and you can explain why.
Well, Tommy, by that token, then you could say this country or no individual should ever give to charity or ever help anyone in need across the world.
No,
or
that doesn't work.
Because it's got nothing to do with us.
That doesn't work.
Well, if they're starving in Africa, we could say,
No,
why should we help them? It's got nothing to do with us.
This doesn't work.
Why not?
Whenever anybody's got no argument, they always say this is exactly how Nazi Germany started.
No, but did I say that?
More or less, yeah. You said that. You said that if what I'm asking you, and you haven't even tried to answer the question, if what I'm asking you holds true, and you haven't even started to answer the question, all right, then dirty follows. But dirty never follows.
It may not have anything to do with me directly, but
stick on the doormat you're on, which is what makes you think it's got anything to do with you.
It doesn't, but it doesn't stop me being sickened at paedophilia.
Oh, that's something else.
Sorry?
That's something else. Let me ask you another question. Why do you want to talk about that?
Well, because I don't usually agree with Wilfred, but I think you were a bit unfair to him because he was making a fair point. That priest is a human being, but
why do you want to talk about it? Why did he want to talk about it?
Well, I didn't.
A question I'm asking because I'm interested in your answer.
Well, I didn't want to talk about it until I heard you...
Do you understand yourself?
Yes.
Then you should know why you wanted to talk about it on the radio when there's so many other things you can talk about on a Saturday night.
I didn't want to talk about it. It was only when I heard you being very...
You do want to talk about it.
Sorry?
You do want to talk about it because you brought it up.
Only when I heard you being unfair to Wilfred.
Right, so is your answer to the question, why did you want to talk about it, because somebody on the radio put it into your mind?
No. If you let me finish. In general, it makes me sick. I didn't want to bring it up because it's a given that anybody would be
look, son, can I ask you? Can we stick? Look,
yeah.
Let's have some precision in the discourse, shall we? I'm asking you a simple question, and I've given you the answer, and it is the right answer. All you have to do is repeat it. I'm asking you why you wanted to talk about it, and your answer clearly is because you tried twice, and I think we can get the gist of it. You really need to know yourself a bit better. It's life's challenge. Your answer is that somebody else on the radio brought it up and it filled your mind.
No, you're twisting what I said.
Well, you tell me, because I've asked you twice and you haven't answered it.
Well, you haven't let me.
I have let you, and you haven't done it.
It's because you were unfair to him. You dismissed what he was saying as if
In that case, then, the purpose of your call and the subject of your call should be the conversation that I had with the previous caller. I would find that dull. He would find that dull. My listener will find it dull. I don't know why you find it interesting. But you didn't. You brought up the subject of paedophilia, a grotesque...
Yeah.
A grotesque subject.
Well, if you remember, Tommy, the first thing I said was, you said a few moments ago that priest is a human being. So I did begin by referring to that conversation. I didn't begin from a different angle.
Nevertheless, you...
you can't say nevertheless. I've answered your point and now you're just dismissing it.
Nevertheless, you have brought the subject back to paedophilia. Now, when you say that word...
Yeah.
All right? When you... Can I finish?
Sure.
Very important, this. Let me just do it with you, all right? Yeah. Whatever you do now, your life depends on this. Don't think of a banana. Now, what did you think of?
I was waiting in trepidation.
What did you think of when I said don't think of a banana? Keep talking, they're coming in for you.
Sorry?
Keep talking, they're coming in for you.
What do you mean they're coming in for me?
Well, you can't hear the sirens outside your house? We can.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. No, because you see, you're such an engrossing person.
Keep up, fella, keep up.
I wasn't even paying attention to that.
The point I'm making is this, right? The human mind has no sanctuary. When a person like you comes on and casually wants to talk about paedophilia...
And I did not want to casually talk about it. I came on to
if you didn't... Right, well, what I want to warn you about, as a young man, is that you must be very careful with the concepts that you bring to strangers.
Well, I thought your attitude was rather offensive, as if it's not important what this priest has done.
Look, son,
son,
I'm not going to talk about it any longer with you. I'm not going to talk about it. You're a young man, very young, very naive, very innocent. You don't realise the hurt that you're bringing to people by wanting to make entertainment capital out of perhaps the most upsetting and dangerous dimension to human activity. It's just not fair game. It's just not something that should be brought up casually with strangers. And people listening to this radio show are not strangers to me because I try to understand, but they're strangers to you because you're too young to know the harm you might be doing.
Well, you casually said he's a human being, which he is. And
son, I'm going to have to turn you down because you need to listen. You're not old enough and you're not wise enough. You've got more, what I did when I was your age, you've got more searching to do, more understanding to undertake.
You're just full of shit, Tommy. You're full of shit.
There you go, you see. I'm sorry if I don't believe that that discussions about what they wanted to talk about are reasonable and fair. As this day turns to Sunday, we're not going to solve anything by talking about it on the radio. Guys like that, just making themselves feel vaguely important by feeling vaguely connected with something that they think is vaguely important, and it's just not good enough because you and I know that when you start talking about issues, you construct mental images. And I've found the last 2 or 3 weeks with the news almost impossible to bear, or too painful, and that's not going to help. If it would help, then I'd be the first in the queue to want to talk about it. But just chin-wagging, aimlessly, for the vague amusement of it about something like that, it is offensive. It is. It's truly offensive. 08700 40 50 60 is the number.
But you can't stop getting a cold, can you? If
You can try. And it's the same with forming views. It's an unhealthy practice, forming views, especially when you're
surely that's what your program's based on, views.
No, it isn't.
Oh, it isn't.
It's based on exploring and discovering rather than reinforcing. As soon as you've got a view, you will find... Now listen to this carefully. As soon as you form a view and express it to yourself, or worse, to others, you will find, if you're not careful, that for the rest of your life, all you do is go hunting for little scraps of what you consider to be evidence to shore up this important partnership that you have formed between yourself and this non-existent entity, your view.
But if people didn't have views, you wouldn't have much of a show, would you?
My fella, I don't need people's views to make a wonderful show.
So what do you... Oh, you just need yourself?
Correct.
Right, well, that takes me on to my second part, actually.
I thought it might.
Right. I'm going to try and be light-hearted here, Tom, but not...
I don't think you're going to succeed. You don't strike me as being the most light-hearted soul I've had on tonight.
Well, no, I'm just...
You're talking about this chap who's now called the show 3 times in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And he's hooked, and he hates it. And I love that. It's is he really an airline pilot? Probably. He said he got a Saab, so he's almost certainly an airline pilot. He claims he's got a house in Maidstone. Have you ever heard of Maidstone?
No, I never heard of Maidstone, no.
Well, it's down in Kent. It's a bit androgynous, a bit insipid. I mean, there's very nice people who live there, I'm sure. There's a bit of a cliche. And he also says he's got a home in the East Midlands, so he claims he's got 2 homes. I don't know.
An airline pilot might have 2 homes.
An airline pilot might have 2
he makes enough
homes.
money for that.
But he's probably a bedsit in East Midlands. And when he says East Midlands, you see, it's almost certainly Birmingham. But people like him, unless it's Solihull in Birmingham, he'd say East Midlands because he'd rather not admit he lives in Birmingham. Well, when I lived in Birmingham for 3 years, I was quite happy to say I lived in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, Birmingham.
Yeah.
And my godmother lived in Birmingham, but it was Solihull, so she'd say Solihull.
Yeah.
He probably is an airline pilot because he wants you to know he's got a Saab, he lives in Maidstone, he also lives in the East Midlands,
What
which is, of course,
surprises me,
Birmingham.
Tommy, is that an airline pilot would be so... He's so deep, it's unbelievable.
He's not deep. He's not deep, he's complicated.
He's complicated.
Yeah. He doesn't understand
It
himself.
surprises me that a guy like that would spend so much time phoning you.
So
something so... so particular.
It does me, actually.
Yeah.
It does me. It amuses me enormously.
Yeah.
What I like is that we got him, you see, because he can't phone back now without admitting defeat.
Yeah.
This is great, because he will. Marvellous.
And like you, I would never travel with a guy like that in charge of a plane.
It's a worry, isn't it?
It's a worry to me.
Have you noticed how many bus drivers are wearing dark glasses now?
That's right,
There's a little tiny bit of
Want to
sun
hide
out.
their eyes, don't they?
I worry about that. Line 4 and see who awaits. Line 4, you're live on Talksport. Good morning.
Hello, Tommy.
Hi, turn your radio off.
Hang on. Right, is that better?
Yeah, thanks.
Police response time. Do you mind talking about that? I've got a little boy, 7.5-year-old, and he was playing just outside the house, about 200 yards away. And Friday night, he was approached by Saturday night, he was approached by a bloke, and he offered him a cigarette, tried to get him to light it. He come running back, told the wife, he was frightened to pieces, like, and she rang the police. It took him an hour and a half to get to the house. I don't think that's on, do you?
Well, what had the bloke done wrong?
What, approached a 7.5-year boy? You know what I mean? It's a little boy. He's approached him, he's offered him a cigarette, he's trying to get him to light it. Doesn't that strike you as a little bit strange? You've gone quiet.
Yeah, well, there's a lot about what you're saying that strikes me as a little bit strange.
Well, I mean, you've got these weirdos out there abducting children. You've got poor Sarah.
Who's that in the background?
That's my wife. She's upset.
Yeah, as I say, there's a lot about your call that strikes me as strange.
Well, it's the fact that we rung the police.
No, I don't believe you. I'm not sure I believe this.
Well, you can always check with Bournemouth Police if you like. It's on record. They did come round, but it took them an hour and a half to get here. We reported
I'm not
a strange occurrence.
I'm not convinced about any of this.
You're not?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not convinced about any of this.
I find that quite sad.
Which bit's sad?
That you don't believe me.
I'm not convinced about any of this.
I was on my own with a baby in bed. Hello? Hello?
What do you want?
Hello?
What do you want?
Who's that?
It's whoever you've telephoned. That's how it often works. Who have you telephoned?
Tommy Boyd.
Well, who do you suppose it is then?
Tommy Boyd. My name is... well, whatever. But I phoned the police, right? I was on my own here with a baby in bed, with my little boy was approached by a man. He offered him a cigarette. He frightened my little boy to death. My little boy is only 7.5 years old. I had a baby in bed. I couldn't do nothing about it. It took the police an hour and a half to get here. Do you think that's good enough? Because I don't.
There's a lot about what you're telling me that fills my mind. For one thing, what time of night was this?
About 7:30, 8 o'clock at night.
And whereabouts was this supposed to be?
In Bournemouth.
Yes, but whereabouts in the street?
Kinston.
But whereabouts in the street?
Whereabouts in the street?
Was there a 7-year-old boy in the garden?
No, he wasn't in the garden. He was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. And believe me, he got a blimmin' good telling off because he shouldn't have been where he was.
How many children have you got?
2. I've got a 2.5-year-old which was in bed asleep. My husband is a taxi driver in Bournemouth. I was on my own here with 2 children. My little boy I let play out, but he's supposed to be between. He was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. Believe me, I give him a blimmin' good rollicking when he came home and told me. I said, "What were you doing down there?" But that's not the point.
Well, if you don't mind me saying so, perhaps it is the point.
No, the point is the police took an hour and a half to come out.
That isn't the point. That is not the point. That is not the thought.
My little boy wasn't that far away. He was only down the road.
That isn't the point.
The police took an hour and a half to come out. I live in Kinston in Bournemouth. The police took an hour and a half to come out. The point is, the police took an hour and a half to come out about it.
That isn't the point. The point is, I think, if I may say so...
That I'm not a responsible mother. Is that what you're going to say?
Well,
I am. Believe me, I am.
I wouldn't dream of saying that, and I can assure you that none of my higher quality listeners thought that either.
I'm sure they didn't.
No. I'm sure you're a cracking mum.
I love my kids to death.
Yeah, well, that isn't the point,
My little boy should not have been there.
That isn't what makes a good parent.
He told me, my little boy came home and said, "Can I go and play at Williams, which is his mate, down the road?" And I said yes. You can go and play. They're little cars out. He's little tiny cars. Can we play in William's garden? I said yes, of course you can, mate. Go and play in William's.
How old is your youngest?
8. And William lives 5 doors down the road.
No, how old is your youngest?
2.5.
I see.
What's that got to do with that?
Well, when my children were the age that your children are now,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
I was so tired
Really?
and focused on the business of trying to help them make sense of a difficult world and making sure that all their needs were met.
Yes.
Unlike yourself, if I may say so, I did not have the energy or the interest in getting on the phone at 1:15 in the morning. I mean, what time's your 2.5-year-old going to be awake tomorrow?
6 o'clock. And I've got to take my child to school tomorrow.
And what are you doing up? Why aren't you asleep?
My life, not yours.
Getting ready for a long day.
I'm
asking you the question because I'm really interested
I'm
in the reason.
insomniac. I just can't sleep.
Right.
No, I'm worried sick about my son.
Yeah.
When something like that happens to your child, you just cannot sleep,
No.
Has anything like that ever happened to any of your children?
That doesn't quite.
Have you got children?
I've told you that already.
Yeah. Well, has anything like that ever happened to any of your children?
Well, I'm not sure what happened to your son. I know what.
I've just told you.
Yeah, I know you've told. What
he was approached by a man.
You don't know that.
He told me that.
Yes.
Well, he's lying to me then, is he?
There's a big difference.
My son doesn't lie to me.
We're not talking about lying here. If you
what are we
think
talking about then?
Well, exactly. If you don't understand that, then I am concerned about what you know about the perceptions of small people.
I understand my son. He didn't lie to me.
I didn't.
The police took him very seriously. They took a statement off him.
Not interested in that.
You're not?
No, I'm not.
No.
At this point in the conversation, you can't move somewhere else quickly when you realise that there's work to be done where you happen to be. And where we happen to be in this conversation
is what I'm doing up at
No, we were there a moment ago.
1:15 in the morning.
No, we're not there at the moment. Do you know where we are at the moment?
I know where I am. I don't know if you know where you are.
In this conversation?
I live in Bournemouth. I don't know where you are.
I'm going to let you go because I'm finding it difficult just to believe that there are, you listening know what the problem is there. That's disturbing in lots of respects. Line 5, you're live on Talksport. Good morning.
Hello, mate. Can you pass the message on to Tommy Boyds for me, please?
No, you're talking to him now. You're live on the air.
Oh, okay, Tommy. I didn't realise I thought it was us that answered the phone. My name's Mr. Hickenbotham, yeah. I was listening to you earlier on, referenced a couple who phoned up about their 7-year-old son who had the incident with the man with the cigarette.
Well, allegedly.
Okay, allegedly. Now, I'm glad you said that on there because tomorrow morning I'm going to be on the telephone to the Broadcasting Standards Authority. I taped your programme because my wife's a nurse because she likes to listen to it during the daytime when she gets up. So I've got it on tape. And the way you spoke and treated these people over the telephone was disgusting. I haven't really got to have an argument with you, Tommy, but the way you spoke to them people was out of order. Okay, you might not necessarily believe them, but the guy actually come on to you about police response time, and initially when he said that, you just totally ignored him because I'm ringing up to you, reference police response time, and initially you didn't say words, and he had to say to you, hello, as if he was like...
Excuse me, just do what you want to do, who cares? Go on, off you go. You want to be like that, just go and do it. Okay, what are you ringing me and telling me for? Just clear off and do it, you pipsqueak.
Don't call me a pipsqueak, otherwise I'll do you, pal.
Just clear off and do it. Who gives a shoot,
You would do if I
don't give a toss. Go on. You waste your...
We'll see. Just make sure you
waste tomorrow like you waste the rest of your life.
I don't need to waste. I don't waste my life, mate.
You're having a useless life, pal, and you're going to continue to have a useless life.
How do you work out I've got a useless life?
Because
Tell me how... then what's my name and what do I do?
Your life stinks.
Okay, explain to me how it stinks.
It's obvious that your life stinks.
Yeah, well, at least give me a couple of, ways in which it does.
From what you like. From what you like as a human being.
But you don't even know me.
Well, we know enough about you to know that your life stinks and you're angry.
What do you know enough about me?
You're angry, you're upset, you're cross.
I am cross the way, yes, you are right. I am cross the way
you're not very bright. You're not prepared to give people the benefit of the doubt. You don't know your thing from your elbow, but you've got attitude. You're unhappy, and whatever it is you're unhappy about, you don't know what it is.
Okay.
You're confused.
Just to let you know that I'll be on the telephone to the Broadcasting Standards Authority tomorrow morning.
I don't give a monkeys.
Well, good. Good, I'm glad you said that.
I don't give a monkey's. I couldn't give a toss.
As long as you've got your story straight.
I don't have to have a story.
But as regards my life and my,
You're a loser. You're a loser.
What do I do for a living? Okay, tell me if I'm a loser, what do I do for a living, Tommy?
You're a loser as a human being. What a person does for a living is not their mark.
Okay, but you called me a loser.
You are a loser.
People who live on the streets are losers.
You are a loser, my friend. People who live on the streets have got much more than you. People who live on the streets have got their freedom. You haven't.
Of course I have.
You're a lost soul.
And I think I earn 3 times as much money as you would,
You are a captive in thrall.
And I earn 3 times as much money as you do, Tommy.
And you haven't got it. And nobody is going to respect you
you do, Tommy.
Or like you.
And I earn as much money. I earn 3 times more money than you do, Tommy.
That doesn't matter. Even if it were true, which it isn't.
Oh, it is true.
It wouldn't matter.
You don't even know what I do. See, that's why I said to you, what do I do for a living at the beginning?
I don't care what you do for a living,
don't make assumptions then about me, Tommy.
You're a loser because of who you are, not what you do.
Okay then, who am I? Who am I? Tell me who I am.
A poor piece of work.
No, see, you don't even know who I am.
Yeah. From what we've learned.
The way you speak to the general public, you're disgusting. I don't even know how you got a job on radio, Tommy.
Because people like you ring me up.
Of course we ring you up.
I need people like you.
Initially,
I want callers like you to ring me up.
That's right.
And I get you.
But initially we ring you up to have a conversation with you.
And you fall for it every time.
Also, the way you spoke to that bloke last night.
You bet. You bet. Because you're out there, people like you, and you normally get away with it, but not when I'm here.
What do I get away with, Tommy?
Not giving the kids the ball back. That's what you're like. You're one of them.
It's an old saying, Tommy.
You're one of them. You're like those people who bump into my son so that they can say, watch where you're going.
No, totally the opposite, mate.
That's you. No tolerance. Let me just zero tolerance.
I'm ex-military, yeah? So
I bet you are ex-military too. And what's more, I bet you run your family like that.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I've got respect for people. That's why I'm annoyed with you, Tommy. Because I'm ex-military, I've got respect for people.
No, you haven't. That's the trouble.
No,
you haven't got respect for people at all. What you've got respect for is an unseen God, authority. Well, let me tell you, Sunshine, authority will only disappoint you ever. If you're going to climb out of the hole that you've dug for yourself, there with all those fish heads, all right? What you've got to do is construct your own God, construct your own authority, and apply it to yourself.
Okay, whatever you say, Tom, but I've got respect for people, and I hope you can learn some yourself.
No, you've got respect for people who can't stand up for themselves.
No, because I never ill-treat people. I never mistreat people. So why would they have to stand up for themselves?
Shall I tell you the problem that I had with those people that you think you're protecting?
Not just tonight, I want about last night also.
Shall I tell you the problem that I have with those people that you like to think you're protecting?
I'm all ears, Tommy.
When you were in the army, you liked to kid yourself that you were protecting people who couldn't look after themselves from the Russian menace or something. Well, we never saw it like that.
Don't be so silly.
We thought.
What are you talking about?
No, that's all you guys are like that. All you guys are like that in the army. You think you're going out there protecting us from the Russian hordes.
No, Tommy.
Well, let me tell you, we were protecting. We were protecting.
I didn't join the armed forces to protect Tommy Boyds.
Let me tell you something that you don't know. We were protecting you from the fact that you were useless at everything else. The only job you could have ever got was marching up and down a piece of tarmac, right? That's the first point. Now, the second point is this, all right? There are a group of people who like to phone this show and others and upset people like you with harrowing stories, and you fall for it.
Okay, whatever you want to say about that.
All right.
Can I just say something about?
All right, and you fell for it again tonight, and you'll probably fall for it again. That's because you've got no perception, and the reason you haven't got any perception is because they rob you of it in the army.
Can I just say something about my call?
No. 08700 40 56.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.